How did you wake up this morning? Did you sit up right after opening your eyes? Did you step out of bed immediately to make coffee or head to the bathroom? If you did, then you're like a lot of people. I used to be the same way, and for many years in my career, I didn't think it was anything to worry about. I'm a brain specialist with over 20 years in the field. I used to believe only people with underlying conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes needed to be careful when waking up in the morning. But then a morning emergency changed my whole perspective. A 70-year-old man, healthy, no smoking, no alcohol, still walked every evening, and had never shown any signs of illness. He collapsed right in the bathroom after standing up from bed for about 10 seconds. When he arrived at the hospital, he was still conscious. Eyes open. Aware of people around him. But he couldn't speak, couldn't raise his hand, and the left half of his body had lost sensation. I stood there, stunned, looking at his brain scan on the CT images. The lesion was on the right hemisphere. A small but deep area. A real stroke, triggered just by moving too fast early in the morning. I know you are probably hearing this with some surprise. Maybe you felt a brief dizziness when standing up, or noticed a loved one sway for a few seconds right after getting out of bed. But then you brushed it off thinking it was nothing. I did the same. Until I realized those moments were warnings. They're the brain's way of telling us the blood vessels aren't adapting fast enough. And if we keep ignoring it, the price could be memory loss, loss of speech, or half the body losing movement. So, if you're listening to me now, I want you to take a few more minutes. Don't worry. I'm not here to scare you. I just want to point out what really happens, and how you can avoid it. At the end of this video, I'll share 4 very simple steps you can do every morning. Just by slowing down a little, you can keep your memory and your steps. But these steps could also help you or your loved ones avoid a sudden stroke caused just by standing up too quickly. Before we get to them, I want you to listen to a recording. It's the voice of a wife calling emergency services for her husband on that fateful morning. The call came in at 6:30 in the morning. On the other end was an elderly woman's voice, shaky and broken. "My husband, he fell in the bathroom. He just woke up, stood up, and fell down. He couldn't speak anymore." The nurse on duty handed me the phone. I asked a few quick questions. Did he hit his head? Is he still breathing steadily? Is he still conscious? The wife answered, "He's still conscious, but not speaking, just looking at me. I see his left side isn't moving at all." We immediately called an ambulance. Less than 10 minutes later, he was brought to the emergency room. At that point, he couldn't speak, couldn't smile, couldn't stand. Imaging showed clear signs of an acute ischemic stroke in the language area. 3 days before, he had a routine checkup. The results were completely normal. No high cholesterol. No diabetes. No high blood pressure. So what happened in those first 10 seconds of the morning? What startled me the most is not this case, but that it is not uncommon at all. This was not the first time I had seen it. In fact, that month I had admitted 3 similar patients healthy, no underlying conditions, who all collapsed just after sunrise. A 2021 U.S. study showed that up to 24% of strokes occur within 15 minutes after patients wake up. 15 minutes. Such a short time. But it is when the body and brain are most fragile. I have seen many who never came back. Not because they weren't treated properly, but because they didn't know what awaited them after one too fast movement. They woke up as usual. They stood up as usual. But this time, their brain couldn't adapt in time. And they could never walk on their own again. After a night's rest, our circulatory system slows down. Blood pressure drops. Blood vessels constrict. The brain gets less blood. And when we suddenly jump up, blood can't reach the brain in time. The rapid pressure change causes small vessels, especially deep in the brain, to be vulnerable. For those with weak vessels, just one sudden movement can cause leaks, blockages, or ruptures. I'm telling you about this emergency call not to scare you, but to help you understand that a seemingly small action like standing up quickly is actually one of the silent but common causes of stroke in the elderly. And it's even more dangerous if that morning you're tired, sleep-deprived, or haven't recovered from many days of stress. You don't need to live in fear. But you need to understand what is happening inside your body every morning. And to understand that, we need to take a closer look at how the brain functions after sleep. In the next part, I will clearly explain why your brain is not ready when you stand up and why just one careless moment can be enough for your brain not to react in time. When you sleep, your entire body goes into a deep rest state. Blood pressure drops, heart rate slows, blood vessels dilate, and blood flow to the brain gradually decreases through different stages of sleep. Your brain, although still quietly active to maintain life, is no longer under the pressure to process information like when awake. That's why when we first wake up, the body cannot immediately return to the fully ready state like during the day. And it is precisely in that transition moment that the brain is most fragile. Especially for older people, with small blood vessels weakened or with a history of many strokes. Imagine the brain like a windshield on a car. Throughout the long night, that windshield is in a quiet state, with little movement. But if there is a tiny crack that the naked eye cannot see, then just a strong vibration or a sudden change in temperature can cause that windshield to shatter immediately. The brain is the same. It may contain weak vessels, places of previous mild injury not fully healed. When you stand up too fast, blood flow to the brain suddenly spikes or drops sharply. The sudden pressure change causes vessels that haven't had time to dilate and adapt. And at that moment, the most vulnerable vessels are the first to rupture, leak, or get blocked. Many of my patients have asked me why they were fine yesterday morning but collapsed today. The answer lies in accumulation. The body does not immediately signal after one careless movement. But after many repetitions, after many mornings of standing up too quickly, the compensatory mechanism of the circulatory system can no longer respond fast enough. That is when transient symptoms like mild dizziness, blurred vision, difficulty concentrating in the early morning become the clearest warnings. Unfortunately, many people ignore them. I remember an elderly lady telling me she thought she was dizzy when standing up because she was old. I sadly smiled and said no, it's not because of age, but because of how you treat your body every morning. Old age doesn't mean you have to suffer. It means you need to care for your body more carefully, more gently, and more wisely. And what I want you to clearly remember here is this: standing up too fast doesn't just make you dizzy. It is a shock to the brain. It is a sudden jolt the body does not anticipate. And if that jolt hits exactly when the brain's vessels are at their weakest, the consequences may be irreversible. I know you might be silent right now. Not because you are scared, but because you are starting to recognize your body in what I just said. That is not worrying. On the contrary, it is the first step of healing. Because when you start paying attention to yourself again, that is when your brain begins to be protected once more. And that is why in the next part I want to give you a few very small actions, but that can preserve the rest of your life. If in the previous part you understood why the brain in the morning is very vulnerable, then in this part I want to give you a few very small actions but powerful enough to change your entire remaining life. The great thing is they are not difficult at all. You don't need any equipment, no medication. You just need to start slowing down, calming down, and persisting a little each day. First, when you just wake up, please don't jump right out of bed. Lie still for about a minute. You can close your eyes a little longer or place your hand on your belly to feel your breath. This helps your blood pressure rise gradually, your blood vessels have time to dilate evenly, and the blood flow to the brain starts to stabilize again. After a long night, the body needs a gentle rhythm to wake up, not an alarm bell. Next, drink a few sips of warm water. Not cold. Not sweet. And not too much. Warm water helps thin the blood after many hours of sleep, gently stimulates the circulatory system, and prevents sudden spikes in blood pressure. If you drink coffee or strong tea in the morning, delay them a little. Drinking them right away on an empty stomach, especially when the vessels are still weak, is one of the causes of strong impulses to the brain's blood vessels. remember, you may like coffee, but your brain does not like being forced to wake up too early. Third, sit up slowly. Turn your body to one side, prop yourself up with your hand, take 3 deep breaths, then sit up completely. After sitting, don't stand up immediately. Stretch gently. Slowly turn your head. Gently shake your wrists and ankles. This is not an exercise routine, but a way to signal your brain that you are ready to start up. I call it the warm-up for life. Finally, if you need to get out of bed to go to the bathroom, stand up slowly, take a few slow steps at first, hold lightly onto the bed frame or wall if needed. Especially on cold days, rainy days, or days when you slept little, take it a bit slower than usual. No one gets a prize for being the fastest out of bed. But if you slow down, you are giving yourself the greatest reward, a body still intact. I once told a patient, don't think of every morning as a race against time. Think of it as a musical performance, where every movement needs to be cherished and has its own rhythm. And you are the conductor of that morning. You have the right to make it lighter, warmer, gentler. And when you do that, you are protecting your memory, your voice, and your ability to walk on your own 2 feet. If you are still listening to me now, I know you truly want to keep your health sustainably. And right now, I want to tell you a true story. A man who once had a minor stroke, but by changing his morning habits, he has preserved his life, day by day. I clearly remember his 3-month follow-up appointment. He came alone, walking steadily, his face bright and his smile warm. He was the man who had a transient ischemic attack just because he got up too fast one morning. When admitted, he couldn't speak and his left hand was almost paralyzed. But he recovered very well. And that day, he handed me a letter. It was the most surprising thing I received all year. The paper was folded into quarters, his handwriting neat and clear. I opened it and read right there in the clinic. In the letter, he wrote, I used to think I was still healthy, still agile, no need to change anything. But after that event, I started to slow down. Not out of fear, but because I wanted to live differently. Every morning, I lie still for 1 more minute, drink a few sips of warm water, sit up very slowly. I no longer jump up like before. I call it a minute of gratitude. In the letter, he also wrote something I will never forget. Every morning, I see myself as a driver going through early morning fog. I keep that windshield steady, no shaking. I go slow because I want to go far. That is how I remind myself that my body has a tiny crack. And if I take good care gently enough, it will stay intact until the end of the journey. He said that thanks to that small change, he feels mentally stronger. He still walks every afternoon, reads books every evening, and especially, has never had any dizziness or numbness in his hands again. At the end of the letter, he wrote something that made me silent for a few seconds. If I hadn't changed that day, I might not be writing these lines today. And if you are reading this letter from your doctor's hands, please start again tomorrow morning. Just 1 minute, it might save a whole life. I folded the letter, looked up at him, and simply said thank you. Because he not only preserved his voice, memory, and life, but also gave me another reason to continue this work, which is to tell you that change is possible. Even after a stroke. Even at an old age. As long as we can still wake up in the morning, we still have a chance to soothe the body and protect what is most precious, ourselves. You don't have to change the whole world. You just need to start with one small action. 1 minute lying still. 1 sip of warm water. 1 deep breath. 1 slow step. These things cost no money, no effort, and don't require you to learn anything. But they preserve your memory, voice, steps, gaze, and the ability to recognize loved ones every morning thereafter. If you can do this, you not only take care of yourself, but also become the first in your family brave enough to change. You might be the one to start a chain of clearer, calmer, and more meaningful days for everyone living with you. If you find what I shared today helpful, please leave a comment below. Just a few short words, maybe someone else reading your message will change their morning routine too. And if you want me to keep telling stories like this, please subscribe to this channel. Every week, I will sit here and tell you a small thing. Small, but it can preserve a whole life.